Today I'm building my note-taking system in Obsidian completely from scratch. I do have a note-taking system, it's all built, and I will show it later on in the video, but I'm going to build it completely from scratch so someone like me, when you first look at it, don't get really confused when you're like, what are all these buttons for? If you want to skip ahead, there will be timestamps in the description. So let's get to this. To start with, you need to actually download the app, so you can go to obsidian.md, that's literally what I googled, and this is the website you'll find. You will need to pay attention to the version, so you can see I'm version 0.12.10, so the version will be developed obviously as we go, so if you see this video in the future, which in theory it will be in the future, but when you see it in the future, just keep note that some of the things that you will see in this video may be slightly outdated. The app is available on the App Store and Google Play, etc., so you can just download the app onto your device. Now, I say device because there is a mobile and iPad and tablet app, which I will go through later on in the video, but as you can see up here, we've got pricing. And as we go over to pricing, you see it's free. It's completely free. But I do actually pay for Catalyst, mainly because of the insider builds. I'm nosy, I'm a nerdy person, so I want to see what's going on, see certain things first, and then you have a commercial build, but most people use it for free. You don't need to pay for it, which gives it an advantage over things like Remnote and Roam Research. However, there are add-on services that are paid, so the sync, so if you're using multiple devices, it allows you to sync your notes to different devices, and because this isn't cloud-based, sync is basically your cloud because it's local-based storage, which I will explain later on for those that aren't that tech-savvy, and then publish. I don't use publish, but you can publish your notes, so instead of putting it on a website, you just use your Obsidian, go, this folder, these notes, publish. The mobile app works on both App Store and Google Play, so you can just download it on there. Again, I will show you exactly how I do that on my Android phone later. The sync tab for when you want to buy sync, and I actually use sync because I use my PC, my laptop, my sister's iPad because I don't have one, and then my phone, and they are all synced all over the place, and you get 5 sync vaults if memory serves. That may have changed by now, but I have 1 sync vault. My sister actually uses another sync vault, so I pay, what's that, $4, I think it's like £3.80, something like that, a month, but I paid annual for 2 people, which is pretty good, and you can have 3 more people on there if you wanted, because you can have an encryption password for that vault. So my account is on my sister's computer, but she has a password for her own vault, so I can't actually access her notes, and she can't access my notes either, but we're using the same account. The community around an application is really useful when you struggle doing certain things, and because this is still in beta, it's still 0.12, it's still a little bit codey and hacky in some ways when you look at it and you're not a coder or not someone familiar with tech and software. So the Obsidian Forum, which is online Obsidian Forum, is really useful for getting quick answers to their questions, but the Discord is where I would go. It's where I live most of the time, and when I want to ask a question, they're there. And the developers, Silver and Lycat, are both in there, which is really nice just to see them engaging, which you don't see from other applications sometimes. So once you've downloaded Obsidian, which I've obviously already done, you then load it up. And this is what you'll see, or something similar to this. This is actually my note collection. So this is a shortcut to the vault that I currently use, and every time we open a vault, another shortcut will appear. We can get rid of that using the X. And it is stored in my external hard drive, and it's called Note Collection because it's local file storage. So if I open up my folder system, you can see this is my external hard drive, and there is my note collection. That is every single note I have in my current Obsidian, which is around 2000. Now, when you first download it, obviously you won't see a shortcut because you've never opened a vault folder. So you'll either need to open folder as vault. So if you've already got a folder ready, you can either create a new vault, so create a new folder, or you can open the help vault. And this is another great place to find answers to questions you may have, or just see what the application can do. So if I close that down, if I actually close this down for a second and then reload that back up, you can see, poof, there it is. Because we've just opened it, it's now a shortcut there. Now, I don't want that shortcut there, so I'm going to get rid of it, but that's essentially what happens. So if we go create new vault, you can see pick a name. So I'm going to pick a name, Obsidian Vault, and I'm going to find a location, and it's going to be in my external hard drive. So I can select folder and click create. So now I have a new vault. So let's just see what's actually going on here. So we've got Obsidian Vault in my folder. It's right there. If I click into there, I've now got a .obsidian folder, and then I have these other files in there. They're not massive files, as you can see, so it's perfectly fine to have on your system. Now going back to this open vault menu, you can see there's the Obsidian Vault, and if I want to do open vault as new folder, I can click open. It takes me to this menu, and there is that vault that we had. Select, and poof, now we're in. To give you an idea of what's actually going on behind the scenes with Obsidian, if I create a new note, you can see we've got the button there, and we call this, let's call this first note because I'm really original. When we go into this file, you can see there's the first note. It's an MD file in there. And the same will happen if I create a new folder. First folder, again, really original. The first folder has now been created in the documents. And this is how the whole of Obsidian works. So I can now drag that note into the folder and poof, it's disappeared and now it's in that folder. So that's what's going on behind the scenes when you're using Obsidian on your system, just to give you an idea. So Obsidian, now we're into the application. We can see what's going on. We've got side menu left, side menu right, action menu all the way on the left, and then we have our main space in the middle. And I'm going to call it a main space because it's not just one note, which we'll get to later. We have some action buttons at the top, so go backwards and go forwards, and then we have some stats down the bottom, so words, characters, backlinks, and almost everything in Obsidian can be customized and changed. So every action, bear this in mind, every action you do, so if I click that, I click in here, almost every action you do has a shortcut / hotkey, which again, I will show you later on. So going down the buttons you can push, you've got go back, go forwards, which is pages. Then we have the File Explorer. This is called the File Explorer, and it's actually a core plugin. You can turn off or on depending on your preference, and this just shows your folder structure. Obsidian Vault, that is the main folder that you're in. You can see there's 2 files and 1 folder currently. Then you have a subfolder, you have the files, and then other files. All of this is toggleable. You can make as many files and folders as you want. So let's create a second folder, and we can then nest the folders in there. So we've now got a second folder inside the first folder. The first note is inside this first folder. It's not actually inside the second folder, but I can click and drag and boop, now it's in there. So you can see we've got 1 file and then we've got 1 folder and 1 file. You can then change the sort order of all of these things using this. And what I personally do is actually go modified new to old. That's my personal preference. And then we have search, and search is pretty powerful. And as you can see, you can search in lots of different ways. So you can search for a path. So if I go path, I can search for specific folders. So if I click first folder, that's what's in the first folder. Then I can search for a file name. So if I push in F, for example, F, there we go, that's the first note. You can search for tags, which is actually easy using the tag pane, which I'll go over later on. Line search, sections, and you can use rejects and things like that inside the search if you know how to use it. When you're searching, you can customize the search using match case, and match case does exactly what it says. So if I type in F, that first note hasn't appeared because it's a capital F that it's now looking for. You have the help section, which tells you what it's looking for. I personally don't have that on, and I don't have match case on either. So now I have 2 files with an F in. I can search for F, and you can see we've now got them both coming up. If I go into the 4th note, which is the note I'm currently in, and type write something funny, funny has an F in it, and whoop, there it is. It's now appeared. So if I collapse result, it's not going to actually show me that there is an F. There's something beginning with F in this note. It's going to give me a 1. If I uncollapse that, you can see it's there. So if I write, oops, I've misspelt funny. There we go. We've now got 2 results. And we can collapse and show that result. That's our choice. I personally collapse those and just look at the number. Then if I actually want to see what is in the note, I will then go and find it. Now I've got 2 results in 4th, so I'm going to untoggle that so we can see what's going on. And then we have this button next to it, show more context. Now I can either go down in here and go show more context, and this is showing where it is. Or if I had more context, so if I type in more context, I now have a line, a block underneath this first block. So that's now going to show there. What I could do instead is click this option here. So that is now on. I can now open this up, and that context is already being shown. I personally don't use that, but that's something else you could do. So I'm going to tick that off, and then you can change the sort order by pretty much the same thing. Again, I go modified new to end, and then you can copy the search results. Now, I personally don't use this often, at all, but you can copy the search options. And what this means is when you're searching for something in specific, you can then copy it and put it into whatever page you're looking for. You can show the path. So that shows the path of where it is. So this first note is just a file, and that is it. It's .md. This second note is in first folder and second folder. So it will show you where it is if you need that location. Then we have the link style. So wiki links, this will be useful later on. So you could either use wiki links, which looks like this, which that's how I use the wiki links, or you can use markdown links, which look like this. Now, you can use either one for your backlinks, internal, external linking, which again, I will go through later on, but these are the 2 options you have. I go with wiki links. And then because you're basically copying a list of things, it gives you the option to have list prefixes. So there's the asterisk, you can have a dash in front of it, or you can have a numbered list of things that you want, but again, I don't really use them much. On the right hand side, we have the backlinks panel. Now, for those that aren't familiar with backlinks, basically that wiki link that we just saw, so if I go bracket, there's that wiki link, you then get given a search menu, very similar to the search we've just gone through, and it searches through all of your notes, blocks, headings if you want as well. So there's the 2 notes that we have, first note, fourth note. I can start typing in. So I want the first note, it is there. I click enter, now it is linked. Now it is a wiki link. And it's not showing up here, but it will show up in the first note. So if I come back over to my side menu, open up first folder, if I control click, which is an action click, which you will use a lot in Obsidian, I hold control on my keyboard and click this note, I've now opened it up. Now you can see we've got both notes open. We have this first note here, which we can drag around. And then we have the fourth note. So in this first note, you can see this backlink panel now has first note in there. Again, the collapse results, the show more context, change sort order, all exactly the same as in these other panels. So if I'm going to collapse this, you can see it. There it is. There's the one. I want more context. Where's going on? That's what's going on. First note. So this first note is in fourth and it's linking to first. So I have a podcast that is talking about coaching. So I'm going to rename that file. Now, when I click off this file, boop, update link. Because it was a wiki link in the podcast page, it's asking me, do you want to update that? And that's part of the settings, which I'll go through in a second. And I'm going to always update it, because that's my personal preference, but you can have it just as once. Always update. So now, that link is changed. It's now coaching. So podcast is now linked to coaching. If I wanted coaching to be linked to podcast, I could then go into coaching, go bracket, podcast, there it is, and now that is linked in here. So in coaching, I have a backlink from podcast to coaching, so the coaching is in podcast going to coaching, and then in coaching, we have an outgoing link to podcast. So there is a link inside the coaching page that goes to podcast. Vice versa, I go into the podcast page, I have a backlink from coaching, and an outgoing link to coaching. Now, Obsidian doesn't have a what you see, what you get editor like Notion, Roam Research, Typora, etc. They are working on that, but it's currently a button, again, hotkey if you want, up here. So we can click there, and this is what it will look like in the preview mode. In the preview mode currently, you can't do anything, you can't edit text, because that's what the editor mode is for, but you can click through links. So this is a link, this is the page preview. If I click on this coaching link, bam, I'm in coaching. So now I've actually opened up coaching twice. I've got the coaching page up in a preview mode here and edit mode here. If you do want to know what Obsidian are working on, you can type in Obsidian MD roadmap into Google, then click on the Obsidian roadmap in Trello and see exactly what they're working on. Now you can see working on export to standard markdown, which is nice, but the what you see, what you get editor is right there on the short-term list. So they're working on it. They're actively looking at it, and you can see everything else that's going on right in here. So we've just jumped through the links, so we can go podcast, coaching. We can jump through these links, but if there are notes elsewhere that we want to try and find, instead of going into search, we can use something called the quick switcher. Now there is an option on the side menu, quick switcher. Again, there is a hotkey for it, which I'll go through later. But when you click on there or use the hotkey, it comes up with a search menu. The same search as you would get with the backlinks, same search with the search menu, and you can just type things in. So let's have a look for coaching. There it is. I can then go enter, and there's that page. If I add another page, so let's come up here, and let's say I want a page on marketing. So we've got marketing in there. Now I have a new page. But if I close that page down and I want to come into marketing and I don't want to go through this file explorer, I can then go to the quick switcher. So let's click on there, type, MA, it's already there, and I can either push, you can see down here, I can navigate up and down, I can push enter to open the page, I can push control enter to open it in a new page, just like we did with the control click on the file explorer, control enter, new page, shift to create the page because it may not be created yet, which I will show in a second, and then escape to dismiss. So I'm going to control enter on my keyboard and boof, we've still got that page up that we had, the coaching page, and now we've got the marketing page. If I go into this 3-dot menu, you get lots of different options. Link with pane, which I'll explain later on. Pin does exactly what it says, it pins the page. You split vertically, horizontally, etc., all the way down, which I will cover most of these. If we delete this file, poof, it's gone. Don't delete and ask us again, delete. Now, for me, I have this set to delete because when I delete the file, I just want it gone. There is file recovery, so that's fine. So I'm going to delete that file. Now, when I come into here and I type in marketing, you see the page is actually gone from the file explorer because we've deleted the file. And marketing, I've now created the page, but not really. It's like a placeholder page. So if I go back into preview mode, you can see this one is blue. It's light blue because that's the theme. And this is the page preview. This is dark because it hasn't actually been created. You see, not created yet. And when we go to search file and we go marketing, you can see, oh, that page hasn't been created yet. And because it hasn't been created yet, we can either go Control Enter to open it, or because it's a setting that we already have done in Obsidian, again, I'll go through that in a second, I can push Enter and create that page. So it's currently not created. You can see it hasn't been made. I can go search M, it's there. I can push Enter, bam, there's the page. And now it's dark blue because we can see what's going on. And we can write something exciting. And there it is, we're writing something exciting. In this page preview, which is a core plugin, you can turn on and off. You can then open the link. So I'm going to open the link to that page and it's there. So if we close that down, come into here, I'm going to open the link. There is that page and you can jump through quickly just like that. Now inside marketing, you may want sales. So double bracket, sales, and there's no match found, but I can just click out and there you go. The page has a placeholder page. So if we go into the graph view, which is one of those views that can get very confusing when you have lots of pages. Mine is very confusing, but we see this. And these lines represent the links. So the backlinks that we had in this panel here are those lines. This is a page, this is a page, and this is a page. It's a different color though. It's dark gray rather than light gray because it hasn't been made yet. And I can make it from here or I can leave it there. Now, before I carry on, if I go into marketing, I can add a tag, that tag that we saw earlier. So if I go here, tag, I now have a tag. And when we go into the graph view, that tag currently isn't showing. But I want to see it. So I can come up to filter and it gives me those options. So this search works exactly the same as all the other searches, so I'm not going to go through that again. If I click on tag, it's going to show the tag. There's the tag and it's a different color. Nice. Attachment. There isn't an attachment currently in here, but again, that would show. Existing files is currently there. I click that off, boop, it's gone. Now, I like seeing my non-existing files, so I toggle that one off, I toggle that one off. Attachments, I actually want to see on there, and then we have orphans. So if I go into podcast, and I get rid of this link, so if I get rid of that link, and I go back to that graph view, see, podcast is still linked, because there is a link from coaching. So we're going to go into coaching and get rid of that podcast link as well. There we go. Now go back to the graph view. Hey, there we go. So that was an outgoing link and a backlink in podcast. We got rid of both of those. And now this is an orphan. So if I click orphans, it's now disappeared. I can click it back and poof, it's reappeared again. To give you a quick example of what attachments look like, I'm going to print screen, so Windows shortcut, Windows Shift S, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to drag around that. Now I have a print screen of that page. I'm going to go to marketing, I'm going to paste it, and it's pasted it as an image. Because it's local files, I now have an image file in here, you can see PNG file. It's also been embedded, that's what the exclamation mark is, and it's here. So if I go into this view, it's going to show me that image. Come into this view, it's going to show me this image. Now when I go to the graph view, we can see, oh, there is that attachment, and it's being shown. I can hide it, or I can show it, and it's a different color again. The CSS theme, you can change as much as you want. Those that know CSS will understand that. Those that don't, again, I'll go through that in a second with core plugins. We then have groups, which I use quite a lot because I like colors, and they're very useful for seeing the graph rather than just having a blurb of dots. So when we come into here, it works exactly the same as search. So you can use all the same search functions as you would in everything else. I'm going to type in C, and anything with a C in it is now going to be colored red because that's the color. I can click on the color and find whatever I want. So C is going to be red. Now if I add another group and I say A, everything with an A is now going to go yellow. Now sales isn't going yellow because it's not actually a file, and coaching isn't going yellow because it's already got this first group on there. So bearing that in mind, some of these groups will cross over something else. Now if I make this sales page, so I'm going to control click, boof, it's now up here as my page because I've just made it, and there it is. It's yellow because it's A and it's in there. That's how you could use those groups, and just something to keep in mind when you are making groups inside of a graph view. Then we have the display, which you can change the arrows. So you can see we've now got an arrow on there. We've got an arrow off. That helps you understand whether it's a backlink or an outgoing link. Then you have the text fade threshold, which basically means if you zoom out and you move this all the way to the left, you'll still be able to see it. But if you move this all the way to the right, you won't be able to see it unless you zoom all the way in to actually see it. So I have that around there, I think. I will show you my vault later. We have node size, so if you want a big dot, it's there. If you want a small dot, it's there. So let's just leave it as a big dot for the moment. And then link thickness, exactly the same. So you can see what's going on. So let's add those arrows on. Boof. There we go. We can see exactly what's going on now. Forces are as you would imagine. You can change the forces, and it changes the different forces applied to the graph, and you can play around with this to your heart's content and make it look all fancy and whatever. And when it comes to interacting with the graph, you can click and drag all the points around, doing absolutely nothing and just wasting your time by dragging dots because yeah, like a cat with a ball. Now I've been breezing over hotkeys and shortcuts and actions for the moment, but command palette. again, another core plugin, but when you click it, you can see, boof, here is every single command currently in the Obsidian space, and you can add them in as you add core plugins in, as you add community plugins in, more actions become available, and you can see all the hotkeys that are default. This is just the default hotkeys, but we can search something. So if I want to go to the graph view, you can see there it is, Control G. So instead of having to click over here, if I was to go into a page, let's go into the podcast page, I can go Control G, woof, there it is. Or if I go back into a page, I can then go into the command palette, search up graph view and click it. Yes, that's a longer way of doing it, but when you want to find different actions and you're not sure where the button is or where to find it, you can go into the command palette and try and find that command you're looking for. We then have a markdown importer, which does exactly what it says. It imports markdown from your more favorite markdown editors, Rome Research, Bear, Zettlekasten, etc., etc. Play around with those as you wish. I'm not going to go through all of that because that's a whole video in itself. We have an open another vault option, so you can actually have two vaults open at once. Now, I'm using two screens and I'm going to very quickly show you. Poof, there's my Obsidian that I have on my other screen, just giving me a bit of a rundown through the scripts to make sure I don't forget anything. So when you click that, this is the menu that comes up, very familiar from the beginning of the video. You have Obsidian Vault, and then you have the Note Collection, the two shortcuts. This is the Obsidian Vault I'm in, and the other one is mine. You have the Help Vault option, so this is another shortcut to get to the Help Vault. You can click that in, poof, there it is. And then we have settings. And before I go to settings, I do want to explain this graph view a little bit further, because when you go into podcast, you can actually have a local graph view. So if I come into this menu, you can see local graph, open local graph, or you could go through the command palette or create a hotkey. So I'm going to open up this local graph view. Podcast, poof, that's it. There's nothing. There is nothing too exciting about this graph view. The filters are slightly different though. We still have tags, attachments, existing files, but now we have neighboring links, outgoing links, incoming links, and depth. So if I go into this podcast note and create a link to sales, now I have, close the filter, I have an outgoing link to sales. So if I turn off outgoing links, that's now disappeared. Now if I open up another page, so let's open up marketing and drag that down here. If I put podcast in here, so podcast, poof, we now have marketing. And marketing, you see, we've got podcast and sales. So in here, we have our podcast page, which is what we're on. The yellow dot, that's the graph we're on. That's the local graph we're on. We go into filters. So we've got outgoing links. So we're on the podcast. Outgoing links is sales. I click that off. Sales has now disappeared. I click that on. It's now reappeared. Incoming links. So that's the backlinks here. Where's the backlinks? Marketing. So this line here should disappear. Now it's gone. I can bring that back. That's good. Now, what's this other line in between? That's the neighboring link. So if I click this one off, you can only see things that are going in and out of podcasts, because that is the graph view, the local graph view we're on. I go neighbor links, bam. Now I can see the neighboring links between these two different points, which is this link right here. And then we have depth. So we're currently at depth 1. Now, when I go to depth 2, what's going to happen? Another thing has appeared. Why has this appeared? This has appeared because it's linked to marketing, but not podcast. So it's gone through 2 nodes. There's 1, there's 2. If I go back to 1, there is only 1 link. So it has to be a direct link to podcast. Depth 2, okay, this is now linked. If I go depth 3, there is nothing linked to coaching. So there is nothing ... If we go into coaching, so we open up the coaching page and we add something else. Let's go sport, because sport is another option. Sport has now appeared. Let's get rid of this page for a second. Sport has now appeared as a 3rd link to coaching. So it's gone from podcast, 1 to marketing, 2 to coaching, 3 to sport. That's the depth. That's how it works. Grouping works exactly the same. Display and forces work exactly the same in the local graph view. It's settings time. I like spell check, and when you do have something that you've added to the dictionary, it will come into here. So as a very quick example, blah blah, blabal is now a word. I've decided that is now a word. I'm right clicking on the word. There's some options. Nah. I'm going to make it a word because it now is. I've decided I don't actually want that word anymore, so I can come into settings and then get rid of that. Very useful for adding certain terms that aren't recognized, especially in research when you have massive long words that no one knows other than people that are writing about them. You add that to the dictionary. Readable line length, if I get rid of those pages, we can see now we're here. We go there, we click onto here, it's now in the middle. So it just changes where the indent is to start with and a couple of other things later on, but I have that in the middle. That is my preference. Strict line breaks, you can see, is currently off, and when we go into preview mode, it leaves all of these there. But when I go in and click that on, if I go into preview mode, boop, ooh, it's got rid of that. So what it's done is it's moved this, so strict line break, it's moved this up here because it's only one line there, so it's combined it all into one line. I personally don't like that, so I have that turned off. Show front matter for those people using YAML or aliases or things like that. This is so that you can see it at the top of the page. If that didn't make any sense to you, then you probably won't be using it. I understand it and I still don't use it because I can see the information anyway. Auto pair brackets, so when you make something, if I want to bracket, poof, there's both. And if I want to go there, there's both there. That's my preference because I don't want to have to go bracket, bracket, then write something out and then close the brackets down. I just want it there to start with. Auto pair markdown syntax is the same as the brackets, just with the bold, italics, and strike through. Smart indent does exactly what it says. It just indents things appropriately. Again, I have that turned on. Fold headings, I turn on because I want to be able to fold information underneath my heading, kind of like a toggle from Notion. Fold indent, I also turn that on. So when I come back into here, we can see if I add a heading, we can see that little arrow to the side. You can change that to the size in CSS, but now you can fold things. And if I tab this over, we now see there's the indent here. What I will say is when you're in preview mode, this works, but this one doesn't. It has to be a bullet point currently for that to work. So if I make that into a bullet point and I make that into a bullet point, you can see it folds there. Now when I go into this page, and now it folds here. Just something to keep in mind. Default new pane mode, I put that in preview because that's my personal preference. Show line number, so you can see how many lines you've got in the editor mode. So 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. This is actually useful where you have something where you have a really, really, really long line that is one block, and you can see that's 8, that's 9. That's where it's useful because when you're referencing blocks later on, using block references, which again I will show, the line number actually helps you see things a little bit, but when you get used to Obsidian and how it looks, how it formats, you'll get a feel for what it looks like, which is why I no longer use line numbers for that purpose. So we're going to turn that one off. Use tabs. I do use the tab button and it's 4 spaces because that's the default. It's nice, easy, nice and simple. Line wrap basically does, again, what it says. If you have line wrap on, you can see it's wrapping the line here. If you have it turned off, it's going to disappear along the page and you're going to have to scroll backwards and forwards, and who wants to do that really? So we're going to turn that one back on. Auto convert HTML does what it says. Vim key bindings, if you don't know what Vim is, then you can't use it, don't use it. If you do know what Vim is, then feel free to use it. Just put in the appropriate code and then you can use Vim going around. So you can use J to go up and down for those that are unfamiliar with Vim. You can use different, that was DD to delete the whole line. You can then undo things and paste. There's loads of options in Vim, but Vim is like a whole world apart. So I'm going to turn that one off because I personally don't use Vim, even though I know I could. Now, files and link. Confirm file deletion. Prompt before deletion. Now, we've already deleted a file, so this is already over, but you can tab that on and off whether you want. I just want it to be deleted and gone, so I have that off. Move to system trash. Yes, you can move it to Obsidian trash, permanently delete. I just move it to the system trash so I can recover the file. Automatically update internal links. Again, that was that setting that popped up, so I'm going to keep that one on because I want it to automatically do that. I don't want it to give me a pop-up every time. That's just annoying. Default location for notes is the Vault folder, so that's the main folder. You can choose other options, but I personally go for the main folder. So whenever I create a new note, so I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control N. There's the new note, and it has been made inside this Vault folder. You can change the name of this and the shortcut will still be the same. New link format. I don't want all of this stuff. You saw when we did the copy search, it gave you first folder, second folder, all of that. I don't want any of that information. I just want the shortest possible link, which is my preference. Wiki links, I'm using those. I'm not using the long ones. Detect all file extensions. Now, I actually use Excel files in my Obsidian, so I actually turn this on so I can store the Excel file in my local documents inside my Obsidian folder. Then when I'm in my Obsidian folder, I can click it and go through. And then the default location for attachments, you can set up a specific folder for your attachments, which is useful, but I actually split mine up so I have images and PDF files, and they both go in different folders, so I just put them in the Vault folder and then use the move shortcut. Again, I'll go through the shortcuts later, but I'll go through the move shortcut and just dump it in the folder, which takes like 3 keystrokes. Appearance. I'm a light theme person, so I'm going to put the light on. Dark has been challenging for the first bit, but I'm a light theme person. Translucent window. I don't like this at all, but it makes your tab translucent so you can see there's the thingy going on, and whoa, there it is, it's translucent. Well, look at that. Look at how lovely That is. It's an option. Font size, 16 is what I use. It's the default, and you can make it bigger or smaller depending on your eyesight and the screen size, etc. But that's an option in there. Quick font size adjustment. I have this left here. What that allows you to do is you can zoom in and out. So I'm going to hold control, and now I'm scrolling with my mouse, and I can zoom in and out of writing. What that's basically doing is changing that dial here up and back. So move it back to 16. Yes! And that button there that you saw is restore to default. You will be familiar with that if you use hotkeys, which I highly suggest. So that is what you can do. I leave that on, but I never actually use it. And then we have themes, and this is where most people change their Obsidian and customize everything. You can use CSS and Rem Research as well. Remnote, I'm not too sure, but if you don't know how to use CSS, you can browse community themes. Here are loads of themes that you can use. I know Santi has a couple of themes. Santi is someone... Woohoo! I can't spell your name. Sorry, Santi. Santi is someone that I know has got a couple of themes and has got a course, which I will link in the description below. Has an Obsidian course. Great course. But what you can do is you can click onto the theme, click use. You see fetching CSS, you're now using this, fetching blah, 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 blah. And what it's done is it's automatically put it in, basically. So this is the theme. I personally don't use this theme. I have my own theme, but this is the theme. And you can see now in this folder, none was. For those of you curious, what actually happened? If we come into my Obsidian Vault, this is what we've currently made. You can see these are all the files. We go into the .obsidian and we can click into themes. Here is that CSS file. So if you want to add, adjust, change that CSS file, it's there. If I double click, there is the theme. It looks great, doesn't it? But that's what's going on behind the scenes. So you can see where everything is in your file system. Sorry, Santi, but I'm turning this off because I don't like it. Hotkeys. Now, instead of going through all of the hotkeys that I use, I'm just going to make an image and dump it on screen for you now. And that is all the hotkeys that I currently use in my Obsidian Vault, and there are lots of them. Feel free to customize them as much as you want. So in here, what you'd do is you'd find the one you want. You click on this customize, and then you click the hotkeys. So Control D. Control D is now add embed. That's actually conflicting with delete paragraph, so I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use Alt. Oh, I can't even push buttons. Alt-D, there we go. And now it's there. Or I can restore it to default, which is, bang, all the way back there. So that's hotkeys. And have fun. The About section is very quick. That's the current version. You can check for updates. Great. Automatic updates, turned on. Obsidian Help, I use the Help button down the bottom left. Language, English, because I'm English. Receive insider builds? Yes, please. I'm a Catalyst subscriber person, part of the membership community, whatever it's called. So I get to see that. So I get things early, but you won't have this button if you're not one of those people. I don't think anyway. You can see there is my license, and I can activate commercial license, but I don't want to because I'm quite happy here. And then we've got the advanced hardware acceleration. I've never really played with this, but it says if you turn it off, performance will be decreased, so I don't turn it off. There's your account information from inside the application. And here is the core plugins. So those things that you saw me talking about here, the File Explorer, the Search, the Backlinks, and other things that I did mention earlier on, this is where you'll find them. You go into the settings and core plugins. So there's the File Explorer. You can turn that off. See, oh, it's disappeared. Turn that on, and now it's reappeared, but it's over here as a tab. Then we've got Search, got that on. Quick Switcher, got that on, gone through that. Graph View, gone through that. Backlinks, gone through that one as well. Now we have Outgoing links, which I'll click on. Tag pane, which I will click on. Daily Notes, which I will click on. The Page Preview is the pop-up. Templates, which I will click on. Note Composer, which I haven't shown, but I will go through. Command Palette, which gone through. Starred, I will turn on. Markdown Importer, gone through. Don't use it, so I'm actually going to turn it off. Zettlekasten Prefixer, I will turn it on to show you, but I don't use it. Random Note, again, I don't use it, but I'll turn it on to show you. Outline, I don't really use it, but I'll turn it on and show you. Word Count, I don't use because I use a community plugin, but I will leave it on for the moment so you can see it. Slides, don't use, but I'll turn it on. Audio Recorder, I do use, not often on my PC, normally on my mobile, but I'll turn it on anyway to give you an example. Open in default app, yes, because I just want to be directed there anyway. Workspaces, I use sometimes, so I'll turn it on and show you. File Recovery, I use, especially when I've made mistakes. Publish and sync. So publish, I don't have, so I don't turn it on. And sync, I do have, but I'm not going to turn it on here because I don't want to sync it up to this. So now we're back in the main workspace. We have loads more buttons to push. So we can see there's the search, there's that File Explorer, but here is starred. Now, starred works different from File Explorer, and I actually prefer it to File Explorer because you can see, let's go podcast. And I'm going to add this to the starred pane. So I'm going to come down here and go star. You can see I don't actually know where that is because I use a keyboard shortcut for that. And then we go marketing. And we're going to do the same thing. So star. Now we go to the starred pane, boof, marketing and podcast. Here, it is sorted by whatever the sort order is. Whereas in the starred pane, you can drag and move around. So if you've got a big long list and you want things like really starred at the top, you can drag it around, which you can't do in the File Explorer. So that's why I use the Start pane. You can unstar the current file and then star or unstar the current file, depending on where you are. But I'm going to actually drag this down here. I'm now customizing my workspace. And as we move over to this side, this is the outgoing links. So remember that local graph view I was talking about? These are the outgoing links. So they're the links in here. There's the sales, there's the pasted image, and there's the podcast. And the backlinks, there's the coaching. So if I want those in different levels, there we go. Let's move that there. Let's drag that up here. And I want the tag pane as well. So let's go here. There's that tag. Remember the search I was talking about with tag? I click there. That's how tag search works. So if we come into here and I go hash, there's the tag. I want that tag in there. I push enter. Now tag is shown up twice. Now when I click on tag, you can see, woof, 2. Now it's in 2 places. Let's go into the sales page and go tag. Now it's in the sales page and that page. But what I actually want to do is I'm going to tag it with coaching as well. Now I've got a coaching tag, and coaching is now appearing in this panel. So instead of typing all of this out, I'm going to go to the tag panel, click on coaching, and bam, there it is, nice and sorted. Something else you can do is if we go into another file. So let's open up the quick switcher, go to podcast. Now we're in the podcast file. But I actually want a nested tag, so I'm going to go hash coaching, and then I'm going to go /sport. So it's coaching, but it's also sport. So if I now look at the tags, we've got tag, coaching, and coach, sport. What you can do is then go show nested tags. Boof. So now we've got coaching sport. You see, now you can toggle these things. So I'm going to search for sport only, or I'm going to search for coaching. Now we've got coaching and sport. We can show some more context, collapse those out, and there we go. There's those tags. So search works the same for files, tags, and blocks. Outline. What does the outline do? Well, the outline is exactly what it says. It gives you an outline. So there's your heading. If I come into here, and we go heading 2 has now appeared in the outline. If we go heading 1, now we've got heading 1 down there, and we can toggle this on and off. Very similar to the tags pane, except it's working with the headings. Some of the plugins will appear on the action panel on this side, so you can see start recording. So I'm going to start a recording, and it's already started. And I'm actually recording on Audacity as well at the same time, because obviously screen recording this. I'm going to stop that, and poof, there's the recording. And again, it's going to be a file. So here is the file right there, and there is that file. So if we go into preview mode, I can then play that through. I'm not going to play that because then I'll just hear myself again. But that's how you can audio record there. I use that on my phone most of the time. We have open random note, which does exactly what it says. It just opens a random note. There you go. There's a random note, and there's another random note. So if you want to randomly go through your space, you can. I personally don't use it, but it's an option. The Workspace plugin saves your workspace. So you can see this bit of a mess that we've made. We can save this as a workspace. So I'm going to save it as mess. And now it's there. So if we change this around a bit, let's move that over here. Let's move this up here. Let's just get rid of that completely. And let's actually add in another page. So now we've got lots of different stuff going on, but I want to open up that workspace we currently had. I can come into mess, load, and there is all that mess that was just made. So if you want a specific workspace when you're working on something, so have a daily note up, a specific daily note, or a specific page, maybe a home page that you're working with, you can set that as a workspace with everything set up for you, so it doesn't matter when you drag stuff around, it's all there ready to go. If you're going to use the Zettlekasten core plugin, you can click over here, and there is that Zettlekasten note, and it's given you a note, and it actually gives you settings inside the settings to change how this works. Or you could use that command palette and then go Zettel. There's the Zettlekasten note in there. So when we go into the settings and we scroll down here, you can see plugin options. Go to Zettlekasten prefixer, and here are those options. So this is currently what that number is. It's taking the year, 2021. It's taking the month, 08. It's taking the day, 31. Is it 31? It's not 31. It's 03. And then it's taking hours and minutes, which is 15:05. That's the time of the note. If you then make another note, it's 05, and then it's always going to add a number, even though it's still the same. Something to keep in mind. So it doesn't actually duplicate things, which is something in Notion that you can struggle with when creating something like this. It just adds a number on, and you're always there. I don't use this method because the numbers for me are just a waste of time, but that is an option. Now, as you will have seen, this plugin options, you can see command palette. Here's the command palette. You can pin something to the top. So let's say we're always going to go into the graph view and we're not going to use the shortcut for some odd reason. When you go into the command palette, you can see now that command is pinned at the top. So you could either use a shortcut or go command palette and pin something there, which is nice. I don't use the command palette because I use hotkeys. Now on the daily notes, I'm actually going to change this. So it's going to go days. months, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And you can see this is what it's going to look like for me, because this is how I prefer to see it. Now I need a file location and I need a template location. So we're going to make a new folder for all of the daily journals. So journal in there, and then we want a template folder. Now I actually need a template for the days, so we're going to go daily template. And what you can actually do inside this daily template, which I do, and it's quite useful in other templates as well, is you go brackets. Now that's making the link, and then I'm going to use curly brackets, and I'm going to type in date. And what this is going to do is going to input the date. But for me, what I want to do is I want it to input the date in the exact same format as the actual date that I want. And you can change the format with any format that you want, and the keys are actually in the settings, which I'll show you in a second. So daily template, let's put that into there. So we're going into the settings. Here's the format reference. So if you need some reference for how you want things formatted, you can click on that and go through. But where do I want the file to be located? I want it to be in journal. And what template do I want to use? I want to use the daily template. Now when I come out of here, we've got the daily template. Journal is currently empty. I don't know the shortcut, so I'm going to go to the command, type in daily note, and bam, there's the daily note. So you can see it's taken the date, so it's got the day, then the month, then the year, because that's what we've got in our daily template inside here. That's the format we want. And journal, there is the note. Here is the note. And you can put whatever you want. So let's add something in there. And because the way Obsidian works, you can add a template whenever you want. So I'm going to go command palette, template. Now I can insert a template. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because the core plugin isn't set up. So I'm going to go into settings, go all the way down to templates, and you see this is what we've asked it to do. Look for nothing in nowhere. Which is why I created that template folder. So now we've got a template folder, and now it's going to know where to search. Just to keep in mind, if the function doesn't actually work, this is probably why I've made that mistake, which is why I did it there. So P, template, insert template, there it is. Now we've only got one template, so it's basically going, that's the one you're going to use. So let's make another template. Control N, new template. Content template. So this is actually an example of one of the templates I have in my space. Again, I'll go through it later. Now I'm going to go bracket, curly brackets, and I'm going to use the exact same thing in there, but this time I actually want the title in there as well. So I'm going to go there, curly brackets, and then title. I'm going to drag it into that template folder. Now, when I go into a note, let's go into this note, and I ask for, can I have a template, please? It says, oh, which one do you want? And this is where you can pick them. So type in C, enter content template. Now it's copied the name of the file, which is this number rubbish up here for Zettlekasten, and it's got the date. If I change this to a name of a file, look at that, it's changed in there. And what I actually use this for is when I'm looking at long files, I can open this up on another page. That was Control-Shift-Click, and I can scroll down this one and stay up here. So when I'm working on the same page, instead of having things split, or me having to scroll up and down all the time or toggle things, I could just have two pages open. This can be at paragraph 5, this can be at paragraph 10, I can have another one at paragraph 33, and I can see them all at the same time in different places, which is really useful, which is why I have this linked in all of my content. File recovery does exactly what it says on the tin. I don't really change any of the settings, I just come into here, and when I delete something, I find it and then just copy it to clipboard and put it back into my Obsidian. Nothing too complicated about that. Note Composer allows you to combine notes together. I very rarely use this, but when you do want to combine notes together, it is very handy. Instead of having to do a copy and paste, you can just combine them together. So if I'm on here, I'm going to go Note Composer because, again, there's no shortcut. I'm going to click. Now it's going to ask which file do you want to combine it to. So I'm currently a name of a file. That's the file I'm in. And I want to combine it with this one. I know there's nothing in the note, but I can merge and don't ask again. Again, one of those settings. So I'm going to merge it, and boof, it's now disappeared because the file no longer exists, and it's now going to be in here. So what it's done is it's merged a name of a file, which now doesn't exist, with this. It's merged the two notes together. So it's got rid of the one I was on and added it to the one I clicked on. There's that setting that we've just clicked off because we've already gone through it. The Quick Switcher plugin I always have, and I think most people have on. These are the settings. So it show existing files only. I don't have that on because I want to see the files I haven't made. Normally it's a person or a book or something. Show attachments, yes please, because when I'm searching for things I want to see my PDF in the search menu. And then show all file types. I actually have that on because, like I say, I have Excel in my vault, which I will get to you very shortly. And then we have page preview, which I use a lot when I'm going through and working in my notes. So you can see there are different options here. So control click. If we come into here, you can see it's already showing me a preview. This here is the preview it's talking about. I can go into there, I can preview all the way down, just like the old Windows broken format thing where it like goes all over the page. And this is the preview. However, it's not showing the preview there. So if I control, now it's showing the preview. If I come back into here, see preview, if I click this on, so when this is ticked, it's not showing me. I push control, bam, it's now showing me. Choose those options for you, and I can't remember what my settings are, so I'm going to go into my space now. So now we're in my space. You can see orange is my color. It's my theme. I like orange. You can see my room is also orange. Other side, there you go, room's orange. This is the local graph. You will see this move around as I move around pages. I will go through the groups very quickly. Journal is blue, so anything daily journal is blue. A capture note is green, which is a literature note, I think is what's used in Smart Notes. A capture note. If you haven't seen my series on how I work through notes, I will leave a link in the description and go through those to understand the philosophy behind my note-taking. Then we have people. People and books are red. Templates are purpley pink. Magenta, and then we got process notes. So dark blue, I know I need to work on them. Everything else is orange. So if there is a working note, something that I have summarized, a working note, that will be orange, and anything in here will also be orange. Now, these notes are orange, and I can see today, any notes that are done today will be orange. So that one, redefining how we speak about communication. This is actually a podcast I listened to earlier today. This is essentially my inbox. If there's something outside of here, it's in my inbox, and I left it there. I made sure I listened to a podcast today before this, and that's orange, so I know I need to process it, and I will process that in a minute when I go through the space to show you how that works. Now, because we're in my space, I'm actually going to use my shortcuts, my hotkeys, to get around my space, so I will try and say them as I go. It just is going to make this slightly quicker. So Control-Shift-S to get into settings. I'm going to scroll down. I've turned slides on already. Look at me being prepared. I need to do slides. I need to show you these slides. I don't actually use it. It's normally off. I must have turned it on in preparation. But you can see I have sync on. So that is a different thing, and that's now going to appear in this plugin. So you can see sync is now here, and some other things in here that you won't have seen in the last space because they are community plugins. I'll go over in a second. So slides, what are slides? This is my daily note. This is today's daily note. You can see that was control space. That's how I go between preview and edit mode. So this is the recording I did on my phone. This is a link to my gym stuff. This is my curiosities page. You can see what's going on. This is actually a reference to this, so I actually need to go through this. I need to go through this at some point today. This is a capture note from a podcast from these two people, and there's the podcast episode, and that's just the notes. It's a very short note, and this links me to all the different days. So you can see blue, there are the different days, gym training, curiosities. So you can see all the links that's going on in there. But slides. What are slides? If I come down here and I go line ... it's going to make a divider. So I go into the main page. There's that grey divider. New slide. I go down a couple. Another divider. Another slide. And then another divider. What I can do, I don't have this shortcut set up because I never use this thing, is I can start a presentation. This is what slides does. There is my first one. You can see it's linked. It's still covering. It's still linking, going through. There's my next slide. And there's another slide. So that was escape. So you can actually make a presentation inside of Obsidian, and it looks like a PowerPoint presentation, which is quite nice. And there are community plugins that do make that slightly nicer. Here we go. I'm actually going to turn that off because I never use that thing. So slides, goodbye. Community plugins. What you do with community plugins is you have to turn it on. So you have to turn safe mode off, which allows you to turn it on. So if I go into the other vault, that was Control-Shift-V, and I go back into that vault we were in. If I go into the community plugins, here, you need to turn that off. So I'm turning it off, keep safe mode on, turn safe mode off. Now I've turned it off, we can then search and browse for a plugin. So let's install this plugin very quickly. It's installed, all good. There we go. Now I turn it on from here. Now it's appeared in my plugin options, and then I can change the settings around. It will also have appeared in here. There's the calendar plugin. Very nice. So let's go back to my Obsidian. See, we've got the calendar plugin up here. There's that. And what I have in my settings for the calendar plugin is 0. I don't want to see a dot. Not my preference. Monday, confirm before creating a note. I don't. I mainly use the calendar to navigate backwards in time rather than creating notes forwards in time, because I create a note at the end of the day. But there's that. Week number, I don't show a week number, but I do have weekly notes, which is another community plugin. And then there's that setting. So better word count. Why is this different? Better word count, I use this instead of the core plugin, word count, mainly because 19, 191. That's all you get with the core plugin. With this one, I can highlight these, and now I can see 5 words, 37 characters. Word's the same as Microsoft Word, essentially. So I can then highlight all the different things that I need to, and it gives me those pieces of information. And while we're down here, 3 backlinks, 1, 2, 3 backlinks, that's where they are. And then we've got this, fully synced. That is only for sync. Obsidian Sync, and that's because it's synced up to my phone, my iPad, my laptop, and all that sort of stuff. That's the better word count. That's the calendar. Command palette, I don't use the command palette, so there's nothing there. File recovery, again, nothing changed. Kanban board, so I actually use a Kanban board inside of Obsidian, which is mainly for YouTube videos. I don't use much of this functionality. Feel free to go into the community plugins as much as you want. So let's have a quick look at my Kanban board so I can open YouTube videos. This is the Kanban board. I don't have that up, so it's there. Some ideas of videos. This is linked to a page. This is what I'm doing right now. This is the video I'm doing right now. And this is the video that's going to be published Friday. So by the time you've seen this, it would have been last Friday. And then I can click archive and it will archive the page. But this doesn't look like Markdown. And that's because it's been formatted slightly. And if we come to here, there it is. So this is the Markdown. These are all the archived projects that I've done. This is the Markdown page, but I never look at it like that. I look at it in a Kanban board view. So opening up these pages, shortcuts. That was Control-H and Control-L to open and close those pages. And go back to the daily note, which Control-Shift-Y, going back to my main page. And here we are again. Control-Shift-S to go back to my settings. Note Composer, I rarely use this. Page Preview, these are my settings for that. Periodic notes. I use this instead of my daily notes. So I still have the same settings pretty much as you saw for my daily note, that's there. But I actually have weekly notes as well. So you can see this is for a weekly review, which I do, funnily enough, weekly. And they're in my weekly folders. And I have played around with monthly notes, but I literally, like as of yesterday, got rid of those. So I'm going to turn that off. And what this means is if I come into here and I go Control-Shift-W, because that's the setting I've made, here's my weekly note. So this is that day, etc., etc. And these haven't been made. You can see they're slightly different colors. But now I have a weekly note. So I have a weekly review and that's automatically made. And they are stored in my folders. So that is this month. That is this year. You can see there's the weeks. There's all my weekly reviews. There's all my daily reviews in the month. We've got the audio journal. This is where I store, like I said earlier with the attachments, this is where I store all the audio files. They were videos. Now they're audio recordings. Hidden notes, which I'm not going to go into. And then this is my current daily note. And it's there. So I know, okay, that was the last day that I went through things. My notes stored capture notes. They are, there's lots of YouTube stuff. They're old videos. Capture notes. There are the capture notes that I have. People. There's people. All the people. Processing. So there are all the blue notes. And then working notes. And then templates. So let's go into my start page. And you can see this is the script I'm working on. So this is what I'm working on. See, this is changing. And these are all the other pages that I need to act on. They're mainly processing notes that only have a couple of things to do. So they're these dark blue notes. So Obsidian is one that's linked in here somewhere. Probably down the bottom. Yeah, there it is. It's linked in down there. And this is a note that I need to work on. So that's in here. Now that we're in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through an example page. And this is the differences between the editor page and the preview page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link. I'm going to link with pane. So I'm going to link this with this. So now when I scroll, they scroll both at the same time. Love it. So heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And that's what they look like. And we've got the toggles on. We've got writing a block. That's a block, etc., going all the way down. Something to note with the bold, you can do it in 2 different ways. In italics, again, you can do it in 2 different ways. These are the squiggly lines, which are the shift, and for me, it's on the same as the hash next to the enter button. Squiggly lines, there's strike through, that's what it looks like. Highlight, again. Code block, you can either use the 3 dashes or the 1. I don't use them very often, but they're there anyway. A pasted image. So this is a screenshot I took, and this is what it looks like. That's what a pasted image is. Embed is the exclamation mark. If there wasn't an exclamation mark, it disappears. So let's put that back, and there it is. This is inline math. Works exactly the same as everything else with latex, don't know how you say it, /pi plus m times c. There it is. Nice and simple, so you can do inline maths in there. Here we have an example page. So this is linking the page. So this is a backlink, like I was saying earlier, and this is the same page inside of itself. This, however, is a link to a heading block. So if I click on this link, boom, it takes me up to heading. And the difference here is it's a hash link. So if I want to make that again, I go bracket, bracket, hash, here's all the headings. Heading 1, which is a heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I change that heading 1 to heading, and now do it again, just to solve any confusion you may have. Now it's changed the name, so this is the actual name of the thing. Heading 1 is just what heading type it is. So heading is now there, and now in here we've got heading 1 and heading. And this is a block reference, which is very similar, but we go bracket, bracket, caret symbol, top hat, and now you can search any block. So that could be a heading, or it could be any other block. And you can see this random spew of numbers is that block. Writing a block. There we go. There it is, boof. So if you come over here, you can see there's that reference, there's that reference. I can click there and it's going to take me up to the block reference. And we can see over here, when it's done, see that number there? That's the same number as in here. 7E9AD4, 7E9, yeah. So I'm going to get rid of that because I don't want all of that. And go block. And what that's now done is it's still working. It's still working the same as it did before. So we've got dash block, and it's still working up there, but I've changed it. So instead of it being a load of random numbers and letters, I've changed it for my own personal reference. So when I want to reference that again, I can anywhere. And because it's a block, I can do a global block reference. So if we come back into here, we've got one caret, you see. We've got the one caret, we've got the heading. If I get rid of this and come into here, I can now go caret, this is just this page, and I go caret again, it's now going to search every single page in my vault, and it's just going to keep scrolling for forever, but I don't really want to do that. And I can type in block, and there is that block reference. You can see example page, that's the page, I'm pointing with my hand, that's the page we're in, example page, and that's the reference, block. So I'm globally referencing the block. If I was to go to another page, I would still be able to reference it. That's how you can reference any block anywhere. But in here, we've got block and block. I don't really want that. So what you can do, exclamation mark, embed the block. So if we go in front of here, put exclamation mark, now it's embedding the block. Did you see that change? So we've got reference, reference. I come in here. This block here, I put an exclamation mark, turns into an embed of that block. We have a comment here. So a comment doesn't actually show in the preview because it works the same as code. It's a comment. If I was to get rid of, it's now appeared as a comment doesn't show up. What I use this for is when I have a comment or a thought in mind that when I'm working on the page, oh, that'd be a good idea, I either put it into Todoist, which is my task management, and I'm going to go through my entire digital toolkit? Yeah, I'm going to go through my entire digital toolkit in the next video. But I can either add it into Todoist, or I can add a comment into the page and then it doesn't show up. So I can put loads of blurb in there for thoughts as like a checkpoint, but it doesn't show up. A quote block, very nice. CSS can change the look of them. I don't use quote blocks, so I don't change it. And then footnotes, and I use footnotes quite a lot. They're essentially references inside of Obsidian, and this is something that I haven't seen in Notion at all that works very well, which is one of the reasons that I actually moved from Notion to Obsidian for my note-taking, because footnotes are so handy. How they work, very similar to block references. You can see this is a footnote, so we've got a bracket, caret, 1. Actually, you know what? Let's zoom in. One of the very few times I'm actually going to use this. I've zoomed in. Woohoo! That's what I'm looking for. And that's what I'm looking for. This is the reference for this one, and this is the reference for this one. This is the editor view, remember. In the preview mode, we've got 1, 2, 3. That's all it shows. So it doesn't show any of this. It just shows a 1. This shows a 2, even though it says footnote in it, it says 2, because it's the second one in the page. And then this one shows 3. So the first 2, you need a line here. If you don't have a line break and you get rid of it, it doesn't work. So you need to have a line there, a paragraph break, so that it works. And when you click in the preview mode, 1 jumps down to this section. And this section only appears in the preview mode. You see it's not actually here, but it's here. And we can click up there and jump back. So nice. You can use that for references and pages. You can use that for jump spaces, anything you want. I use them like this, though. So this is a reference. This is a reference using personal links. This is a reference using a page. So example page is a page. And what I've done is I've footnoted the page. So it's 3. Jump 3, and there's that page. This is the page we're on. We can scroll all the way down. Let's go in between it again. And what I do in my space, in my working notes, is I have my capture notes as footnote references. So I can go straight back to wherever it was that I found the thing. We then have external links. So Danny website is what it's going to show up in the preview. It's there, and this is the website it's looking for. This is not a wiki link. This is what all the links would look like if you didn't have the double brackets, which this is just way too long, so I use the double brackets, but this is what you can do with external websites. And then you can see I've embedded my YouTube video, and that's the iframe. But how do you do that? Iframes were confusing to start with, but essentially what it's doing is it's inside code. I've learned how to do code. Iframe here, width is what it says width, so if I get rid of that, it now looks really silly. Let's put the 6 back. So you can change the width, that's the height. This is the source, so this is essentially the link to the video, which I actually have up here as well, so you can see it's the same. Title, and loads of other data in there. If we go to the video, so I'm going to open up the video, this is my most recent video. Any video on YouTube works like this. Click the share button, click the embed button. All of this will be copied when you push the copy button. So I'm going to copy that, go back to my Obsidian. I can come into here and then go paste. And now I have the exact same thing. Now that I've gone through that, I now want to go through how I actually use a lot of these shortcuts and features to process some of my notes through working. And the series I've done before this, the 4 videos I've done before this, actually go through this process in way more detail, but I am going to give it a quick overview now. So I've got a couple of notes here that I've just made. This one is a podcast that I have consumed, and I'm going to go through how I did that on my phone after this. So I have the name of the file here. So if I go back to edit mode, I have the name of the file that was in the content template that I showed you earlier. I then have date created, and what this has done is it's linked it to the note I've created. So if we come down, you can see here blue, that's the date I've made it. So every piece of content that I consume, it has a date associated to it, so I know when I consumed that content, not when it was made, when I consumed it. Then I have the author. Here we actually have an alias, which I'll show you in a second, and I have another author. So this allows me to link, you can see down here, red, Brett Bartholomew, that is the person that does the Art of Coaching podcast. And Scott is the other person. Now, in my graph here, I don't actually show Scott, because if I come to preview, this isn't actually... Oh, it is a page. Why isn't it linked? That should be linked. It is, but it's just there, because this is because I haven't actually processed this, so it looks different. Because this is here, it isn't filed. And because of the way this is grouped, notes, people, it should be red. So this is currently orange, which means I know I need to work on it. This is red, means I know I filed it. And this is Scott right here, because it's the first time I've ever seen Scott. But if Scott wasn't created, it wouldn't be there. It wouldn't be showing. So if I add someone else, another person, if I add another person in there, there is a link there, but it's not going to show on this page because I don't show the orphans on this page. So I can now get rid of that because I have no intention of using it. You can see it's jumped up to the top because modified goes to the top. And then I have the source link. The source link is going obviously back to the source, wherever it was. Whether that is a PDF. If it's a PDF, it will be in my PDFs file. Yeah, there we go, in PDFs in there. I never actually go through my files, which is why I don't know that. But yeah, so if it's PDF, I'll either go through the link. If it's a video or whatever it is, there will be the source link. And then I have my notes. And I'm not going to go through how I do all of this, but basically these are all the different points. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly go through this note and organize it in different places. But before I do that, Scott. Let's organize Scott. This is the template I've put with Scott. So I've gone open template. So that's control colon. And then I pushed P and then push enter. And that's the template for Scott. So that's been put in there. And then I have an alias. And this alias is Leave Your Mark. That is his podcast. And that's exactly the same as what I've done with Brett, which I'll show you in a second. So I can go Control M. I'm going to move this to person. So push P, people. Now he's out of this and into people. So when I go back to, oops, wrong one. When I go back here, now it's red. So Brett is red and Scott is red. So if I go into Brett, you will see Brett Bartholomew, Art of Coaching. If I go back to that podcast that we're going through there, oh, you could see if I quickly go back, that was control back bracket, square bracket. That one, I know that's the one I'm working on because these are all processed, these are all green. So if I go back into here, you see Art of Coaching is being shown, not Brett Bartholomew, because Brett's the name, the original note. The Art of Coaching is the alias. And I'm referencing Art of Coaching because that's the podcast it's on, that's the guest. I will probably speed this bit up, but I'm now going to process this note. Before I get questions about that, what I've done is I've gone Control O to open up a page. I've typed in the page that I think it's going to relate to, then I push Control Enter to open it up as another panel. And now what I'm going to do is go through and basically copy and paste all the points across to the appropriate pages. A quick point, because this is a working note, I saw it was a working note in the quick switcher, so I come into here, you can see working is in that little path. Because I know this is a working note and I've just added something to it, I'm actually going to Control M and then move it to processing. So now I need to process this note, and because it's quite a quick process, I'm actually going to star it. So I'm going to go Alt S, so you can see it's now starred. Now when I come down here, it's going to be down there. So I know there is a really small change in this working note that I can quickly get done in that working process. But back to it. And you'll notice I've just copied the same block into 2 different pages because I think it's appropriate to be in 2 different places. And I can do this as many times as I want. And the main reason I don't use block references is for that purpose. Because that block right there, that block here that I've highlighted, is going to be reworded in 2 different ways. So if I was to use the block reference, I wouldn't be able to reword it in 2 different ways in 2 different places, or 3 or 4 or 5. So I copy and paste them and then put the reference in. The reference then becomes a footnote, which is what you would have seen in the other working notes. And if I come across another one, I'll stop and show you. Now in that example there, actually, I'm just going to bring in a point. When I typed in value, you can see there are lots of different things in here. I've got capture note, which I just completely skipped over. Working note, processing note, processing note. They're the ones that my eyes drew to because the capture notes, I don't need them. But bad values to me, good values to me, I don't know if the point that I've taken is actually appropriate for that note yet. So I was looking for a processes note, which is why I went for adding value. So I know when I go into adding value, I can then process that point. It may be applicable in both of these points, but I don't want to spend too much brain time thinking about it. Does it? Doesn't it? I just want to get it out of that highlighted point and into a note because I don't want to spend my time thinking about it now because my brain isn't working with that. I'm not in a flow state around that right now. So I just want to get it into a point, get it, good, go, done. And if you saw that, I actually made the note. So this note wasn't made, but it has references. You can see it's referenced in a few processing notes and lots of working notes. So it's been referenced, it's been used, but I didn't have any content in the page yet. So I made it. It came up here and then it very quickly disappeared because I was so used to it and just moved it to processing. And while I'm actually there, what you saw me do is I actually clicked on the wrong page, but because the page is already linked to the page I actually wanted to go to because I've worked on that note, I just clicked through the link to get to the page I wanted, which is another advantage of having working notes so densely linked. And while I remember, this is a working note. So even though I'm in edit mode, if I go into preview mode, you can see blue, blue, and blue. So all of these are footnotes. And these are the footnotes. So Gary Vee has said something, Andy Mutishik has said something. And that's Gary Vee, that's another reference from the same thing. So that's a reference for the points that were made. And that's essentially what this point is going to be turned into, a sentence in there somewhere, somehow. But I don't know yet because I'm doing that later. Just as a shortcut, I realized that I already had that in there, and Control D deletes a paragraph, so I just deleted the 2 lines in between. Okay, so now that I've actually finished that, I'm going to move that to processing. Now it is out of this list here, and all of the points from here are now linked. So if I actually click on this page, you can see it's linked to lots of different processing pages. I've got the list down there, and I can jump to any of those pages. It is linked to Scott Livington, because that is a person. It is linked to Brett, and it's also linked to Context Matters. And you can actually see, if I zoom in a little bit, let's not zoom in too far, you can see there are links between a lot of these ideas already, which means that this is obviously talking about a specific area, specific topic, which could be quite useful. I don't use the depth because, well, let me just show you. If I move this to depth 2, yeah, that's useless. I can't use that. So I don't use depth 2, and that is the reason. Okay, so now I'm on my phone. You should be able to see it next to me on the screen. I'm going to go into Obsidian. Now it's going to be synced with my Obsidian Vault, so everything you see in my PC will be on my phone. There may be a little bit of time to sync, which is what I'm hoping for, fingers crossed. And this is my daily note. So if I swipe down on my phone, it's kind of a shortcut. I swipe down, it goes to my daily note. This is my daily note. I can go into the edit mode. It's there. So I've audio recorded on here, and then it's synced over to my main note. I swipe right. This is that side menu. So I've got the backlinks. I'm going to hide the backlinks there. I then have all the other options down the side. So those dots at the top, those different options at the top on the right would be here. I only use backlinks on my phone, so there's nothing else here. I can click into sync. That's my sync. I was going to show you there, but you're going to be able to see the screen. That's my sync. And when it takes time, sometimes it takes around 10 seconds to sync up when I've added something new. That's in there. If I swipe to the right, the other side, you can see, woof, there's the folders. So if I click out of the File Explorer, you can see that's what it would look like. So I've got Start, Search, and File Explorer. Most of the time, I'm in File Explorer anyway. But this is what we have in here. Now we have all of the other options. So when I'm recording something, you can see recorder is on the right. So if I'm in my daily note, so let's pretend I'm taking another recording. I'm now recording something on my phone and it's recording. You can see because it's blue. And then I push the blue button again and now it's recorded. You can see there's the new file. There's the new file in there and then I can play it on. That's now going to have synced to my PC. I'm going to leave it there for the moment because we will see it on the iPad when I get there. But we don't have keyboard shortcuts. So when I tap into the phone, you get this toolbar, this really nice toolbar that you can change in settings. So we have indent right, indent left, move up, move down, templates, brackets, and delete paragraph. They're the ones that I have chosen, and then you have your normal texting. But what this allows me to do is if I have a new note, so for example, let's make a new note. I'm consuming a podcast. I have no idea what the podcast is, but I'm consuming a podcast. And I'm in here. I can push the add button, and now I'm going to templates. This is going to be content template. So now I have my content information. I have my author, which is going to be, let's call it Seth Godin. So Seth Godin is now my author, and then I have the link. Now, if it's a podcast most of the time it's on Spotify, so I just copy the link from Spotify and put it in there, and I then make my notes going down the page. Yeah, this is a really good note. There you go. There's my notes for that podcast. And because it is at the bottom of, actually, I can show you. Because if I go there, I'm in this page, I swipe down, bam, homepage. But because it's at the bottom on my PC, it'll be there, it'll show. So if I go into settings now, you see we've got the mobile option, which isn't in. Everything else here is here on PC, but the editor is different. So I'm going to go into mobile, and we can see configure. This configure button at the top is the command palette. So that command palette, that list of all the different commands is here, and this is the swipe down. So whatever action is in there, the swipe down is what it shows. So the current command is set to periodic notes, open daily note. So when I swipe down, it goes to my daily note. And then we have manage toolbar, and you can add things, take things away, and these are all the different actions that you would do. So insert template, there are loads of options in here. So let's just add that one. I've pushed add, and then I can drag it up and say, there we go, let's have it in there. So now when I go into the page, there it is. You see the add button is now on that side, so I can scroll across. There it is. Now I don't actually want that on there, so I'm going to go back into settings, go into mobile, and actually get rid of that because I have never used that, I think. Most of my practical uses on my phone is audio recording, so recording a quick note, quick capture, and because it is styled, because it is stored in my files on my folder, go internal storage, go documents, go Obsidian, go sync, there we go, there's that recording, so the recording is local, and all of the notes are also local. So it means I can take notes. I don't have to, with Notion or any cloud-based service, I don't have to wait for anything. I can be offline taking notes, and as soon as I go online, it's synced and back on my PC. Okay, so now I'm on the iPad. You can see I've got an iPad here, and hopefully you'll be able to see this on the screen. So what I've done is I've opened up my Vault, and this is also synced to my phone and to my PC. This is currently empty. If I swipe down, boof, there is my daily note. Now, this iPad is actually my sister's, so I haven't got my CSS theme on here, which is why it's purple. But same function, same functionality. So swipe down is my homepage, my daily page. I swipe to the right, there is all of those things. So we've got the podcast. That's that note that we had earlier. So if I click on there, that's the note that I just made on my phone, literally like a minute ago. It's probably a couple of seconds ago for you. And then we go right, exactly the same menu because it's the same application. The main difference here, you can see the tab bar is much, much larger. Writing something. I don't think I've ever written on YouTube, so that is what my handwriting looks like. If I'm writing something and I want to go in between the line, I can either do that, but then it gets rid of the line and I'm like, it's so annoying. Or we can go forwards and backwards like this. And that's my personal preference. But most of the time when I'm writing, to be honest, on here, which I do when I use the iPad, it's at the moment for testing things out, but it's when I'm downstairs and my laptop is like rubbish, dying. Before I leave the iPad, if we go into sync, you can see currently synced vault. So I can choose the vault. There are going to be 2 vaults. There's going to be my sync vault and then my sister's stuff because it's her iPad. And she actually uses my sync account, like I said earlier, on here. So I've just chosen my vault. And these are all the things that I'm syncing with. Not really that much because, like I said, I don't use the iPad. But yeah, that's that. And I realized something while actually going through and editing this video is I'm actually using Obsidian as my cloud storage. So I recorded obviously the iPad screen on the iPad and then the video was on the iPad. So what I did was I just saved it to the files on the iPad and then put it into Obsidian. So there is the recording from the iPad in Obsidian. That's how I've put it onto my PC. I didn't use Google Drive, OneDrive or anything. I just put the file into my Obsidian folder and then it's synced up into my Obsidian, and I do the same with photos from my phone. So if I take a picture on my phone, I just put it in the files on my phone and then it goes into Obsidian here. So that's essentially what this recording is. It's just recording from my phone that's now in my Obsidian on my PC. Really nice. And because that was over 3 hours of me recording and it's actually 1 hour 15, I forgot to record an outro. So get off YouTube and do something productive with your time instead.